Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the exercises for Chapter 8. Exercise 8.1 is here we're going to start with. Let me pull up the Excel sheet and slide it into the range here. Okay, we're going to go back and forth. So exercise 8.1. Identify the journals that we're going to use for each transaction. We have a cash receipts, a cash payments, a purchase journal, a sales journal, and general journal. First one, purchase merchandise for $3,000. The terms are 2/10, which means 2% discount if we pay in 10 days, net due in 30 days. So, well, that sounds like the purchase journal to me. I'm going to go over here and type in purchase journal. Okay, the next one, which I do want to back to the book. Return damage to a supplier to receive a credit memo for $800. Okay. Actually, I'm going to pause for 1 second. Okay, let's move on. Let's read number 2. Return damaged merchandise to a supplier and received a credit memo for $800. Okay, as far as the journals go, anytime you're doing adjusting entries, closing entries, anything like that, basically the hard stuff always goes into the general journal. So the answer for number 2 is general journal. I'm going to pull up here, check in general journal. Okay, number 3. Issued a check for $3,600 to a supplier as payment on account. Okay, so we're paying down our liability with cash. So that's going to be a cash payment journal. Cash payment. Number 4. Purchase merchandise for $2,000 plus a freight charge of $140. The supplier's invoice is payable in 30 days. Again, we're purchasing. It's a purchase journal. Number 5. Received an allowance for merchandise that was damaged but can be sold at a reduced price. The supplier's credit memo is for $475. Okay, the credit memo and any type we're doing difficult entries where we have to make an adjustment on anything at all has to go through the general journal. So that's a general journal. And the last one, purchase merchandise for $3,500 in cash. That would be a cash payments journal. Payments. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. Exercise 8.2. Let's scroll this down. 8.1, 8.3. The following transactions took place at Extreme Bikers. Indicate the general ledger account numbers that would be debited and credited to each one. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accounts to work with here. And we're going to list what gets the debit and what gets the credit. So the first one, purchase merchandise for, let me move this up so we can see it better. Okay. Purchase merchandise for $1,500. The terms are 2% discount in 10 days or net 30. So we purchase merchandise and it's going to be due in 30 days. So let's go ahead and enter that transaction. So we know that we owe the $1,500, so that's going to be accounts payable. That's easy on the credit side. That's going to be credit 205. Let's think about the debit side now. Debit side is just going to deal with the purchases. They didn't tell us what the freight was. They didn't tell us how much it cost to ship. So all we have to deal with is the purchases, and that's 501. Let's do the second one. Return damaged merchandise to a supplier, received a credit memo for $300. Okay. So that means we've got a credit of $300. Doesn't mean they gave us cash for $300. It means we got a credit. And so on the liability, the accounts payable gets a debit now because we are getting $300 back. It's $300 less that we owe them. So that's the debit side. Okay, lady. There we go. Okay, on the credit side, we are doing a merchandise return of purchase and return, which is always a credit. The purchase, return, and allowance is account 503, always a credit. Third one, issued a check for $800 to a supplier as payment on account. Now we're talking cash. If the cash goes out, the cash is normally a debit. If it's leaving us, it's a credit, so that's 101. And we're paying it to a supplier as payment on account, which means we're paying down our accounts, our liability, which is accounts payable, so that's 205. Number 4, purchase merchandise for $2,400 plus a freight charge. Now they're asking us to add the freight in of $260. Okay, so the fourth one, we have the purchases is 501 and the freight, so that's 501 and 502 are the debits. 501, 502, and then the money we owe in 30 days is the credit, which is the liability, which is accounts payable. Number 5, received an allowance for merchandise that was damaged but can be sold at a reduced price later. Credit memo for $400. Again, it's just a credit memo. That means less you owe on the account. So that's less you owe on the liability, which is 205, accounts payable. And then the purchase, return, and allowance count, which is always a credit. And that is 503. And the last one, purchase merchandise for $4,200 in cash. So that means our merchandise goes up, excuse me, which is our purchases, which is 501. And our cash goes down, and our cash is 101. That's a credit. And you've just finished exercise 2. Let's move on to 3. Okay, so the following took place the first week of July. Indicate how these transactions would be entered in the purchase journal. Okay, so we have July 1. I think I already left some of this in there for you, so you didn't have to type it all in one. I did. July 1, July 3, July 5, July 10. I already put the invoice number in. I already put the invoice date for you, but we still need to enter the terms. The first one is net 30. So let's go to the terms. We know that that's N30. Okay, that's after we post to the journal. That's when we add the post reference number. So what's the total amount here for accounts payable and purchases? Purchase batteries for $18.90 plus $95. Okay, so we know the freight is $95. And we know that the purchase itself, $18.90. That's 1,890 for a total here of $19.85. Oh, got it on the wrong line. Great. Okay, let's look at the second one. Actually, this is such an easy problem. You're just doing the addition and subtraction. I'll do the second one and let you guys finish. Purchase mufflers for $4,200 plus a freight of $99. So we have terms of 1% discount in 10 days and 60. So you're still going to put that here. You're just going to put 1% discount, 10 days, comma, and then net 60. So they both have to be able to fit in there. Okay. And we know that the purchase was for $4,250. 4,250, and the freight was $99, and that means the total was $43.49. Okay, so you can see how to enter the terms. You see how to, the rest is done for you, and you see how to enter it in the 3 purchase journal. So I'm going to go ahead and let you finish that problem 8.3 on your own. Let's move on to the next one, 8.4. All right. So 8.4. On March 9, Modern Kitchens received a credit memo for $244 for $3,420 from J&M Appliance Corporation. The credit memo covered a return of damage purchased on invoice 1401 dated February 3rd. Prepare the general journal entry. So again, it's general journal, so we're talking about purchase, return, and allowance account. Okay, let's go ahead and throw that in there. What it's supposed to look like. We know on March 9, we know that we have to use the purchase, return, and allowance account. Come on, 8.5, right? 8.4. We know that we got a credit in accounts payable. So let's talk about what gets that. Means that's going to be the debit. So accounts payable is normally a credit. But because we return something, we get some money back going crediting to accounts payable. So that's going to be a debit. So we're going to put accounts payable, this first. And they returned how much? They returned $3,420. Gets to come out of accounts payable once you debit it. $3,400. That's $3,420 less that you owe that company. And purchase, return, and allowances, we've just learned, always is a credit. Purchase, returns, and allowances. This is always a credit. So this is how simple the entry is. $3,420. The difficult part here is just writing what is what. Like, why do we even have this memo? You have to say something like received credit memo, and the credit memo number was 244 for damaged goods. Then you would say the damaged goods was purchased on February 3, 19, and they'd put the invoice number. Invoice number 4101. Okay, so I put that all in one line. I probably should have done it on separate lines. I probably should. I'll just do it on separate lines then. I'll cut that, paste it here, and I'll put the invoice number. I'll cut that, paste it here. Doesn't matter how many lines I use, for real. All that matters is my debit and credit is right, and that if I was looking at my books and I wanted to see what was going on, I now have a purchase to refer to, an invoice number to refer to, and a date that I really bought the stuff on. We're going to do the same thing for problem 5. In fact, it's going to look exactly the same. Okay, but it's going to have a different date and a different credit and a different amount. That's it. So 8/5. April 17, New World Appliances was given an allowance of 1,000. There's your amount. Count back to accounts payable, so that's your debit accounts payable, 1075. You're going to write the credit memo number, and you know it's a purchase allowance account, which is always a credit. And you're going to write the invoice number, 911. That's it. That's all there is to it. So we're going to go ahead. This is accounts payable, and we're getting 1,075 back, 1075. Okay, and then here you want to write your purchase return allowances, $1075. It's always a credit. This is where you'll write the information, like your credit memo number. That's 112. Let me see for damaged goods. And then you'll want to write the invoice number that it came from, the purchase date. And you purchased it on March 20. That's 3/20/19. And the invoice was number 911. So you got all the goods in there to refer back to. Important thing is you know why you're putting what in the debit column and why you're putting what in the credit column. Please move on to the last set of exercises. 8/6, 8/7 I left for you to read through, so you didn't have to type it all out. We're going to do 8/6 and 8/8. Okay. I have to go back to the book and read what 8/6 wants us to do. Let's see what I have in my textbook here. Okay. 8/6. 8/7. Okay, 8/6. On June 30th, the general ledger of Beverly Hills Clothiers, a clothing store, showed a balance of $63,895 in the purchases account, a balance of $2,975 in the freight account, and a balance of $4,280 in the purchase return and allowance account. What is the delivered cost of the purchases made during June? What's the net delivered cost of these purchases? So basically, they want to know how much purchases you made after all the freight and all that is part of taken out of the equation. Put into the equation. Okay, so our purchases, they said, was, look back at that, $63,895. So you're just going to put that in there. $63,895. Okay. The freight in, they told you what the freight was, which was $4,280. No, that's not what it was. I have a freight in, a balance of $2,975 in the freight in. That's what I thought. Okay, $2,975. Okay, so that's going to tell us what if we go ahead and add that up. That's going to be the cost of everything we bought for the month. So if you add that up, everything costs $66,870. Now, we got to throw in everything we returned for the month. We returned $4,280 worth of goodies, which gives us our net purchases, once you do the subtraction, of $62,590. And that's the exact thing you're going to do for 8/8. Look at the purchases. 8/8. That's all here for us. Let's go through 8/8. It's just written out differently. Okay. In this case, they don't give you the purchases. They want you to do the subtraction. So they want you to take the 97,750, subtract the 4,275 to give us A. Once you do that, you'll figure out the net purchases are really 93,475. Let's see, do they give us the purchase return and allowances? No, they want us to figure that out too. So that means all we got to do is, all they got is do the subtraction between the 97,750 and the 93,825. Okay, we're going to have to go ahead and throw in the purchase returns and allowances, which is 3,925. And what was our freight in? They gave that to us right there. But then now we need, actually they're asking us for, let's see, the following is missing the schedule. So we're supposed to do A, C, B, and D. So that's what we're doing here. Okay, we did A and B. So C over here, the freight in's going to be 97 minus the 3. I've got an amount of 6,280. Delivered cost of purchases. I have an amount of hold on one second. I see. Okay. D. Need to figure out D. C. Great. Nah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, A is 93,475. We knew that one. Okay. We got that right. Purchase B is 3,000 less return allowances. 3,925 is B. C, we have 6,280. And for D, it's actually 101,850. You can go ahead and plug those in and recheck those numbers and make sure it works. So if D is 101,850 minus the 975, that gives you the freight in of 62.80. So that works. Purchases work here. This minus this is 93,475. And this less return is 97 minus the 93 is B, 39.25. So all those exercises work. All your exercises are done. Now we got to do the problem. And actually the problems are a lot shorter. If you look at the schedule, I gave you a lot shorter problems this time around. So we're going to do that next.